Don't worry, random viewer, I'm not here to claim that Kakashi can defeat the entire Akatsuki at once, although DMS Kakashi probably could. No, what we're going to be doing today is having Kakashi run the Akatsuki Gauntlet. So let's get some rules established, shall we? Kakashi has pretty bad stamina, so we're gonna say he goes into every match fully healed up and with all of his chakra. Second is obviously we're not going to be including DMS Kakashi, he's incredibly busted and unfair to use here. Last rule is that all these fights will be one-on-one, so none of that teamwork stuff. The way I'm going to do this is going with the version of Kakashi that could beat the current member of the Akatsuki he's put up against. For example, I'm going to do Kakashi from the fight with Hidan versus Hidan. However, I don't think Kakashi from that same fight could beat Kisame, so I'll pick the version of him I think could and explain why. This video I guess could serve as an Akatsuki ranking as well in that regard, since I am going to be doing them in order, but the focus is going to be on Kakashi, so the reasoning why a certain member is above another won't be mentioned unless it's integral to the argument. So Kakashi versus Hidan. We're just going to talk about Kakashi in that fight because when I was reading it, I noticed that Kakashi never really had trouble defending against or dealing with Hidan, and the main trouble was always Kakuzu and his hearts or a combination of the two. Take into account a few things here in this fight. Hidan wields an extremely long triple-bladed scythe, while Kakashi has a kunai, so he pretty much has a really big reach advantage over Kakashi, yet that never seems to get in the way, and Kakashi can defend against it just fine with the kunai, and then on top of this he gets blasted away with a wind release jutsu, which Hidan calls the usual, meaning him and Kakuzu regularly do this to take down opponents and he walks away from it. The next thing I'm going to mention only has implications rather than solid proof for it, but I still want to mention it. After Kakashi blocks Kakuzu's lightning style false darkness jutsu, he comments that he has now used 4 Raikiri, so he can't drag out the fight much longer, which implies to me those had a bigger hit to his stamina than Kakuzu and Hidan's usual technique that they used on him, which I think is fair to say after all. Kakashi isn't even breathing hard after this or out of the fight for a while. He's right there to block the next attack that they throw. Kakashi also has another little scuffle with Hidan and once again comfortably defends against him even while being weakened this time. At this point, I think it's fair to say Kakashi is stronger than Hidan, but that's not the end all be all since Hidan has his Joshing ritual and immortality on his side. I don't really think the joshing ritual should be a problem for Kakashi though, since not only is he very fully aware of it and how it works due to Shikamaru's knowledge, he's very good at defending against Hidan when need be, so Hidan being able to draw blood from Kakashi likely isn't going to happen. Immortality is a completely different issue, but considering Hidan's inability to tag Kakashi, Kakashi should be able to do significant damage to Hidan with one of his Raikiri. Given Hidan the benefit of the doubt here, Kakashi's first Raikiri is probably going to be aimed at his heart or chest area, which if landed won't do any damage. We've seen Hidan get stabbed in the chest and it didn't really affect him before. So Kakashi actually might get stuck in Hidan's chest similar to how he did with Haku on the bridge back in the Land of Waves arc. If that happens, Hidan does have the opportunity to try and draw blood from Kakashi since he's so close to him and stuck in this position. However, the only tool Hidan has to do this with is his scythe, so the way he'd have to hit Kakashi would likely give him time to dodge, and then Kakashi would just go for its head next time. So I'm calling this a Kakashi W. Moving on, I could put either Kakuzu, Konan, or Zetsu in this spot, considering I think Kakuzu is weaker than everyone else. Konan has no scaling other than being faster than Hidan, and Zetsu is in the same boat. So since Kakuzu gets virtually no respect on a day-to-day basis, I'm going to put him after Konan, and I'm gonna skip Zetsu. He's supposedly a non-combat type anyway, according to Obito, and in the war, every white Zetsu gets beat up pretty easy. So let's do Kakashi versus Konan next. So I hate to have to do this, but I'm gonna have to go over some Konan debunks. First things first, if Konan has prep time, Kakashi immediately loses. He has nothing to counter over 600 billion paper bombs. With that being said, the only other time Konan has done something impressive was trying to take advantage of Obito's Kamui and do a self-destruct technique using the exploit of him being tangible while absorbing something. Not only is this Konan at her most desperate just trying to beat Obito, it didn't work. Obito reacted and then said he wasn't taking her serious to begin with, so he was probably holding back as well. Aside from that, we know Conan's paper bombs are quicker than how fast Obito can suck himself into the Kamui dimension, and there is one other thing that we can compare this to, that being Inoki's particle style, since Obito evaded that and saved Sasuke. This would normally be a great comparison if not for the fact that Obito showed us he can transfer Kamui onto the people he's touching. Shown here when the Raikage tries to punch Obito, who's holding Sasuke on his shoulders, and he just directly goes through them. This means that Obito could have phased Sasuke through the attack and taken him into the Kamui dimension afterwards. There is also the fact that in the war arc, Obito displayed he can enter Kamui without sucking himself into it if the attack he's phasing through is big enough to cover his entire body. Shown here when Naruto's Biju Bomb forces him into the Kamui dimension, meaning if he grabbed Sasuke and Inoki hit them with it, it would have forced him into Kamui. So again, I'll reiterate, Konan has no feat on Obito that is worth noting and no relevant scaling outside of this, because all she does is lose to Jiraiya and then lose to Obito here as well. As far as her self-destruct move, I doubt she'd ever pull this out on Kakashi, considering he's nowhere near the threat Obito was, and she shouldn't be as mad at him for any reason, and she doesn't have any Rinnegan to protect from him. The only thing Konan really has is the fact that Hidan says he's the slowest in the Akatsuki, so Konan would by default have to be faster than him. I might as well go ahead and address this since, well, I know there's going to be an annoying amount of comments pertaining to it. Konan did beat Sasori in Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution, and everyone says, oh, the game is canon, it's stated to be canon. No, wrong game. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Generations is stated to be canon, and while I have my gripes with that game being canon and the statement for it, it doesn't change the fact that that isn't this game. The only real evidence for this game being canon is that apparently Kishimoto was a supervisor for it or something like that, but that doesn't mean anything considering we not only have no idea what work he was doing on the game, but can Kishimoto not work on non-canon stuff for Naruto? The game also has its own contradictions, like having Hidan join before any of Kakuzu's other partners. It also implies Hidan has been in the Akatsuki for years, but the OG story has Hidan implying he knows nothing and is the new guy to the organization. He also tells Pain he has his own way of doing things and his own personal goals, despite Pain saying that to him the literal first time they met. But yeah, the game being canon is a non-argument. I probably went way more in depth on that than I needed to, but oh well, it can't hurt anything. So Konan is faster than Hidan and Kakashi is faster than Hidan, and we have no metric for how much. So I could say I'm just gonna go with equal stats on this one, but I think Kakashi has the higher assertion here, especially since he has the Sharingan. Kakashi can copy Konan's paper jutsu. Deadwood 3 lets us know this isn't a Kekkei Genkai and only a B rank ninjutsu, so Kakashi copies it and W. Anyway, let's move on to Kakuzu. I'm going to go with the same version of Kakashi here as I did in the previous two battles, but for a different reason. Let me make it clear that I think this would be the hardest fight for this version of Kakashi thus far, and at the sake of spoiling my win con for this fight, I think this would end with Kakashi being in the hospital. Let's get one thing straight. While some statements of confidence can be seen as pure stupidity, depending on the character, they can become valid sources to gauge the power of another combatant. Before I make this argument, I'd like to say I think it's pretty clear Kakashi is weaker than Kakuzu, but I think he should at the very least be able to hold him off. This was part of the plan during their attack on Kakuzu and Hidan. Kakashi interrupts Kakuzu and says, "You're mine," because he's about to fight him alone. It's worth noting Kakashi is, quote, taking it easy at this point because he's already used 4 Raikiri and thus a decent portion of his chakra. If you remember in part 1, all he could manage to do was 4 Raikiri in a day before being out of chakra, so that should give you some idea on just how weakened he is at this point. Kakashi cancels out Kakuzu's lightning release jutsu using his 2 Raikiri prior, and obviously he took both a kick from Kakuzu and his wind style head on, the latter of which though may have been somewhat subverted since Kakuzu claims Kakashi saw through it with his Sharingan, but we don't know exactly what he means because Kakashi still shows visible damage from the jutsu, losing both his Jonin jacket and having a few scuff marks. The only real way for Kakashi to win this fight here is with Kamui. And given Kakuzu's lack of knowledge on it and Kakashi admitting he would have used it if Naruto and Yamato didn't show up when they did, I think it's a pretty valid win con. The only thing I'd say is probably necessary for this is Kakuzu sitting still. Since I don't think Kakashi is all that skilled with the portal still at this point in time, even the time Kakashi says he's going to use it is when Kakuzu was sitting still about to blast all of them. That being said, you could say this is 50-50 or 60-40, but Kakuzu does do a lot of standing around when he's fighting against Kakashi. And if he does a blast similar to how he tried when he fought him the first time, he's probably going to get cooked by Kamui. If this isn't enough for you, then Kakashi from the Pain arc should be more than enough considering how his Kamui had gotten so good at that point. He was able to Kamui away a moving missile from the Predator Path while on almost zero chakra. But let's move on to Kisame. Kisame is the first character so far that has an actual transformation that makes him stronger. And on top of that, he has gotten so much stronger over the course of the series. In part 1, Kisame was around the level of a Kakashi clone shown by them clashing water jutsu and stated by Itachi claiming he wouldn't get away from him without being injured. Kisame jumps from this kind of low level admittedly to being able to push Guy to the 6th gate while using a clone with 30% of his chakra, which makes a good time to mention his extreme chakra pool. Neji claims that Kisame at 30% and after he had already used a big water jutsu was at Naruto's level of chakra. But even with this extreme amount, it's not enough for Kisame as he says the clones are limited in their power due to the lower chakra amount. Kisame's clone isn't equal to 6th gate Guy or anything. Guy absolutely curb stomped him, but it's worth noting this is a clone and I'm just using it to mark Kisame's insane jump in power. And I'm saying that he'd likely curb stomp the previous version of Kakashi I was talking about. Kisame fought Guy during the Kazekage rescue arc. During that arc, Kakashi drained himself of chakra so much he wasn't really active again until the Kakuzu fight. So it's not like any training had been done. All we see him do is sit in the hospital and read a book while training Naruto. Or I guess watching Naruto train while he's getting the Rasen Shuriken. So it's not like he had gotten stronger at all. Might Guy and Kakashi should be around the same level in their base form, and Guy thought it'd take the 6th gate to stop Kisame's clone, so it's not too easy to argue Kakashi would be able to win, especially with Kisame being able to absorb his chakra on top of this chasm in strength. That being said, Kakashi from the 5 Kage Summit should be able to deal with Kisame. Kakashi was able to react to Sasuke's Susanoo arrows and warp them away with Kamui. I don't plan on getting super goony here. Sasuke uses a bow and arrow. The arrows should move faster than or at least the same speed that he can. And Sasuke showed when he was even weaker, he's capable of dodging strikes from Raikage and even outsped him by enough to make him want to enter B2 when using his MS, and the Raikage was able to keep up with KCM Naruto pre-amp. Naruto did outspeed Kisame with this form even pre-training, and while Kisame is admittedly drained here, he found Naruto's speed unbelievable. To be clear, I'm not saying Kakashi is as fast as KCM Naruto or anything, just that he can Kamui away things as fast as that, even when having to react to them late, which means he should have no problem getting Kisame with one. Let me be clear in saying I'm not giving Kisame his tailless-tailed beast form or shark mode, whatever you want to call it, against Kakashi because he uses beast chakra in that form and that's just not fair at all. So let's move on to Deidara. Deidara has some pretty interesting implications regarding his power. Kisame claims he always thought Deidara was one of the stronger members, and Deidara is directly comparable to Hebi Sasuke, who Naruto doesn't think he's caught up to even after defeating Kakuzu with the Rasen Shuriken. Inoki also claims he can't see how Sasuke beat Deidara when seeing Sasuke at the 5 Kage Summit, but he had admittedly seen a pretty poor performance from the guy at that point. All he had done is block a sword strike and get tossed around the room while he's in immense physical pain from Susanoo use. Deidara also has the ability to turn most fights into a draw with his C0 bomb, but I won't be including that here. Kakashi should be able to similarly deduce Deidara's bombs are earth release using his Sharingan like Sasuke, and defuse the bombs using his lightning release jutsu. Similarly, C4 won't work because they'll appear as a giant chakra cloud to Kakashi Deidara does have the ability to fly, but even when Kakashi had a weaker Kamui, we saw he could tag Deidara while he was in the air, making it still an applicable win con in this rematch. As stated before, Deidara is directly comparable to Heavy Sasuke, and base form Heavy Sasuke at that, who is weaker than Sasuke in the Kage Summit that Kakashi can Kamui arrows from. This puts Deidara in the same boat as Kisame, where he unfortunately can't get out of Kamui. And on top of that, he has no real win con with his bombs being mostly useless against lightning release. With that being done, we can move over to Sasori. Sasori gets clowned a lot for losing to Chiyo and Sakura, but this isn't really that good for him either. He did get outsmarted by them quite a bit, most notably when Sakura faked being done so she could hit and break apart the third colored Kage puppet. It's also implied by Chiyo that the final strike was something Sasori didn't try to avoid, meaning he let himself be killed. Sasori is directly stated to be stronger than Deidara by Deidara himself, and while there could be different things you could apply to this statement, like Deidara having one arm at the time, or the fact he might just be trying to get Kakashi and Naruto to leave him alone, I think largely these are just interpretations to make the Sasori versus Deidara debate more contentious. Deidara does have one arm, but none of his jutsu require two arms, and while he might have been trying to get Kakashi and Naruto off his back, that doesn't mean he can't do that by saying something that's just true. So I don't view that interpretation as a debunk. It'd be like if someone didn't want you to walk in a room, so they told you if you walk in the room, swag wouldn't upload. Yeah, they're clearly trying to get you not to enter, but swag still isn't going to upload either way. Deidara does seem to think him and Sasori are close in power though. When saying the statement, he doesn't sound all too sure. Sasori is stronger than him, but he says he is stronger, probably, yeah, implying they might be somewhat close in power. But even if they aren't, and you think Deidara is stronger, then the same thing would apply as the last match. Sasori also has a set of moves that could be countered by Kakashi's lightning style, depending on if you think the Boruto anime is canon or not, since lightning release does disturb Shinki's Iron Sand. If not, then nothing in the Naruto manga would imply that it works that way. If Sasori pulls out his 1,000 puppets, you could say Kakashi would have a hard time being able to hit them all, since he definitely can't Kamui them all away, but could maybe try fighting them off like how Sakura did using a Raikiri. Honestly though, I see this going how the last few matches concluded, and that's with Sasori simply getting cooked by Kamui. It's so fast at this point Kakashi can use it almost instantly. With that being said, we can move on to the final three, the big three, Obito, Itachi, and Pain. I'm going to kind of cover all these guys at once, but also not at the same time, and that's for a few reasons. Kakashi's main win con for most of these battles so far has been Kamui, and the version of Kakashi I was talking about a bit ago simply can't beat Pain or Obito with Kamui. Pain is 6 people, and asking 5 Kage Summit Kakashi to use Kamui 6 times is a tall order, borderline impossible at that. Kakashi was wobbly just using 1 Kamui on Sasuke's arrow, so any more than 2 and the rest of the Pains are probably just going to cook him from fatigue. Kakashi does have one saving grace against Pain, and that's that he knows how to deal with all of the Renegade's abilities. Obito confirms that's the reason he's not using the Pain's abilities with his 6th Gen Cherokee Pains. Aside from that, it's hard to claim Kakashi got any faster from when he had fought Pain in the first place at this point, and this sort of continues into the war arc, although Kakashi's Kamui speed increases a lot. He can't Kamui 6 Pains, and Kamui won't work on Obito to begin with. That being said, it will work on Itachi rather easy at this point, as Kakashi loads up a Kamui against Obito that literally blitzes Obito in the war. He teleports Naruto's clone away so fast that Obito thinks he popped it with his attack and is later surprised by it in the Kamui dimension. Itachi, as he appears in the Akatsuki, is absolutely not capable of reacting as fast as Rinnegan Obito, and I think I can skip over why that's the case, so it's pretty easy to say he'd get the Kamui treatment like the last guys. For Pain then, it'd have to be when Kakashi is amped up by Naruto's 9-tailed chakra cloak. This gives Kakashi over 3 times the power output on his Kamui. On top of that, he can spam the jutsu when in the war arc, so taking out all 6 Pains with it is no longer the nearly impossible feat that it used to be when talking about 5 Kage Summit Kakashi. Obito, since he is so broken and hacked out with the counter to Kakashi's ability in every way, I'm going to say Kakashi needs DMS. Now I know it's crazy to say Kakashi needs DMS to counter Akatsuki Obito, but hear me out. Without being able to speed blitz Obito, Kakashi is left without a way to beat him since his main win con won't work on him, since Obito is immune to combat and intangible himself at pretty much all times. Kakashi by the end of the series could obviously solo the Akatsuki, but as it stands, these are the versions of him that could beat every corresponding member of the Akatsuki.